In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, where stars twinkled like tiny lanterns in an endless cosmic ocean, there existed a place known as the Galactic Academy. It was a sprawling institution floating in the void of space, its metallic spires glinting under the light of nearby suns. The Academy served as the training ground for young beings from countless planets, all eager to become officers in the Galactic Defense Force. Among these recruits were 3 cadets who would soon find themselves at the center of a mystery that stretched across time and space. Zix was a reptilian creature with shimmering green scales that reflected light like polished gemstones. Quick-witted and fiercely competitive, Zix had earned a reputation for being both clever and stubborn. His sharp tongue often got him into trouble, but his ability to think on his feet made him a natural leader among his peers. Then there was Lyra, a graceful aquatic humanoid whose translucent skin shimmered faintly with hues of blue and silver. She rarely spoke, preferring instead to communicate through melodic hums that seemed to resonate with the emotions of those around her. Despite her quiet nature, Lyra possessed an uncanny ability to solve problems no one else could see. Finally, there was Torque, a towering insectoid with a thick exoskeleton and razor-sharp mandibles. Though he appeared intimidating, Torque was gentle and kind-hearted, always willing to lend a helping hand or claw to anyone in need. The trio came from vastly different worlds, each shaped by unique environments and cultures. Zix hailed from a desert planet scorched by twin suns, where survival depended on speed and cunning. Lyra's home was an ocean-covered world, where harmony with nature was paramount. Torque, meanwhile, originated from a dense jungle moon teeming with life, where cooperation and strength were key to thriving. Despite their differences, they shared a common dream: to serve in the Galactic Defense Force and protect the galaxy from threats both known and unknown. Life at the Academy was anything but easy. Cadets endured grueling physical challenges designed to push their bodies to the limit. They sprinted across zero-gravity obstacle courses, sparred in simulated combat arenas, and practiced piloting sleek starfighters through asteroid fields. But the physical trials were only part of the equation. Mental endurance was equally important, and cadets spent hours studying advanced astrophysics, interstellar diplomacy, and military strategy. Instructors constantly reminded them that leadership required more than brute force. It demanded wisdom, patience, and the ability to make tough decisions under pressure. One day, during a routine simulation exercise, the cadets stumbled upon something unusual. The task involved navigating a derelict spaceship, supposedly abandoned centuries ago. As they explored its dimly lit corridors, searching for clues about its origins, Zix noticed a flickering holographic display embedded in a wall panel. Curious, he activated it, revealing fragmented images and text written in an unfamiliar language. Lyra recognized some of the symbols, which resembled ancient scripts from Earth, a planet considered insignificant by most galactic civilizations. With Torque keeping watch, the trio worked together to decipher the message. What they found shocked them: references to a war ban imposed by humanity long ago, forbidding any form of interstellar conflict involving Earth. The discovery left the cadets baffled. Why would humanity, a species often dismissed as primitive, impose such a restriction, and why had no one ever mentioned this before? Driven by curiosity, they began asking questions among their fellow cadets and instructors. Most shrugged off their inquiries, dismissing Earth as irrelevant. "It's just a backwater planet," one instructor said dismissively. "Nothing worth worrying about." But the cadets weren't satisfied. Something about the situation didn't add up, and they couldn't shake the feeling that they were onto something big. Determined to learn more, the trio decided to investigate further. Late at night, when the rest of the academy was asleep, they sneaked into the restricted archives. The room was filled with rows of glowing data crystals, each containing classified information. Using skills they'd learned in hacking class, Zix managed to bypass the security protocols while Lyra kept an ear out for approaching footsteps. Torque stood guard near the entrance, ready to intervene if anyone tried to enter. After what felt like hours, they finally located a file labeled Earth Protocol. Downloading its contents onto a portable drive, they hurried back to their quarters before dawn broke. Back in their shared dormitory, the cadets pored over the stolen data. What they uncovered was astonishing. Humanity had once been a dominant force in the galaxy, wielding technology so advanced it could destroy entire star systems. But after a catastrophic war known as the Stellar Cataclysm, humans had chosen to step back from galactic affairs entirely. Rather than seeking revenge or rebuilding their empire, they implemented the war ban as a way to prevent future conflicts. The cadets realized this decision had saved countless lives, including their own species, but no one outside Earth knew the real reason behind it. As they absorbed the implications of their discovery, the cadets found themselves grappling with conflicting emotions. On one hand, they admired humanity's selflessness and foresight. On the other, they couldn't help but wonder why such a monumental act had been kept hidden for so long. Was it humility, fear, or something else entirely? Their minds raced with possibilities, and they knew they couldn't keep this secret to themselves. But revealing the truth came with risks. If word got out, Earth could become a target for exploitation by greedy factions eager to claim its lost knowledge. Yet staying silent meant perpetuating ignorance and allowing fear to govern relations between species. The weight of their discovery weighed heavily on the cadets as they prepared for their next challenge at the academy. Little did they know, their journey was only beginning. The truth about humanity's war ban would not only change their perception of the galaxy, but also shape the course of their own destinies. For now, though, they resolved to keep their findings hidden, biding their time until they could decide what to do next. As they drifted off to sleep that night, their thoughts lingered on the mysterious blue-green planet orbiting a modest yellow sun, a world that held secrets far greater than anyone could have imagined. The next morning, the cadets awoke with heavy hearts and restless minds. The weight of their discovery lingered over them like a shadow, casting doubt on everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. Zix was the first to break the silence as sunlight from a nearby star filtered through the dormitory's transparent ceiling. "We can't just sit here," he muttered, his voice sharp with frustration. "This changes everything. Everything. We've been taught everything we believe. How can we act like nothing happened?" Lyra hummed softly in agreement, her melodic tones conveying both concern and determination. She floated above her bed, her translucent skin glowing faintly in the artificial light of the room. Though she rarely spoke aloud, her presence carried a quiet strength that grounded the group. Torque, seated cross-legged on the floor, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "If what we found is true," he rumbled, his deep voice resonating through the small space, "then humanity didn't just step back, they sacrificed themselves for peace. That's huge." Zix nodded, his scaled hands clenched into fists. "Exactly. But why hide it? Why let everyone think Earth is weak when they're actually heroes?" He paced back and forth, his tail swishing behind him. "And what about us? What are we supposed to do now? Keep pretending we don't know?" Torque tilted his massive head, considering. Maybe there's more to this, maybe we haven't seen the whole picture yet. His multifaceted eyes gleamed with curiosity. What if the war ban wasn't just about stopping wars? What if it was also about protecting something or someone? Lyra chimed in with a series of soft notes, her expression thoughtful. She pointed to the portable drive containing the stolen data, then gestured toward the Academy's library terminals. Her message was clear. They needed to dig deeper. If the classified files hinted at humanity's role in shaping galactic history, there had to be more information hidden somewhere. The trio agreed to return to the archives that night, but this time, they would need a plan. Sneaking around once had been risky enough. Doing it again without getting caught required precision. They spent the day preparing, using their unique skills to cover all bases. Zix, ever the strategist, mapped out potential escape routes and blind spots in the security system. Lyra used her keen senses to memorize patrol patterns, ensuring they could avoid detection by roving guards. Meanwhile, Torque gathered supplies, including tools to disable alarms and a portable cloaking device he'd scavenged from a previous training exercise. As dusk fell over the academy, the cadets met in a secluded corner of the mess hall. The cafeteria buzzed with chatter from other students, none of whom suspected the trio's secret mission. Clutching their gear tightly, they slipped away under the cover of darkness, their footsteps silent against the polished metal floors. Reaching the restricted archives undetected felt like navigating a minefield, but years of training had honed their instincts. When they finally arrived, Zix disabled the lock with practiced ease, and the three slipped inside. Inside the dimly lit chamber, rows upon rows of data crystals glimmered faintly, each holding fragments of knowledge spanning millennia. The sheer volume of information was overwhelming, but the cadets focused on their goal. Using keywords from the initial file they'd uncovered, they began searching for related entries. Hours passed as they sifted through encrypted records, piecing together snippets of history like a cosmic puzzle. Their efforts paid off when they stumbled upon a set of logs recorded by Admiral Kale, a human officer who had served during the stellar cataclysm. The recordings were fragmented, but the cadets managed to reconstruct key details. According to Kale, humanity had developed weapons capable of annihilating entire civilizations, not just militaries but planets, ecosystems, and innocent lives. During the war, these weapons had been deployed sparingly, but their devastating effects had sparked widespread fear and chaos. Entire species had been wiped out, and alliances crumbled under the strain of survival. But instead of continuing down that path of destruction, humanity made an unprecedented decision. Rather than seizing control of the galaxy or rebuilding their empire, they chose to dismantle their arsenal and impose the war ban. This wasn't merely a political move, it was an act of penance. Humanity recognized the horrors they had unleashed and vowed never to repeat them. By stepping back from galactic affairs, they hoped to inspire others to seek peaceful solutions rather than resorting to violence. The cadets listened intently, their awe growing with every word. They gave up. Power, Zix whispered, his voice tinged with disbelief. They could have ruled the galaxy, but they chose to fade into the background instead. Torque nodded solemnly. It's not weakness, it's strength. Real strength isn't about domination, it's about knowing when to stop. Lyra added her thoughts with a series of harmonious hums, her tone filled with admiration. She mimed, placing a protective hand over her heart, emphasizing how deeply moved she was by humanity's sacrifice. But amidst their admiration, questions lingered. Why had no one else known about this? Who had decided to keep it hidden? And why? As they delved deeper, they discovered references to a secretive council within the Galactic Defense Force, a group tasked with safeguarding humanity's legacy while maintaining the war ban. These individuals operated in the shadows, ensuring that Earth remained isolated and unthreatened. It was a delicate balancing act, one that required constant vigilance and absolute secrecy. Suddenly Zix froze, his scales shimmering nervously. "Wait a minute," he said, his voice low. "If this council exists, then someone here at the Academy must know about it. Someone high up." His words sent a chill through the group. They realized they weren't just uncovering history, they were treading into dangerous territory. Whoever controlled this information held immense power, and exposing the truth could have dire consequences. Yet, turning back wasn't an option. The cadets had come too far to abandon their quest now. With renewed determination, they continued their search, uncovering more clues about the Council's activities. One particularly damning file revealed that several attempts had been made over the centuries to exploit Earth's advanced technology. Each time the Council intervened, thwarting these efforts and erasing any evidence of the incidents. The cadets couldn't help but wonder how many lives had been saved, and how many secrets buried because of the Council's actions. As dawn approached, exhaustion began to take its toll. Their eyes burned from staring at screens, and their bodies ached from hours of standing. But they refused to leave empty-handed. Just as they were about to call it quits, Lyra spotted something unusual. A partially corrupted video file labeled Final Testament. With trembling fingers, she activated it. The screen flickered to life, revealing the weathered face of Admiral Kyle. His voice was weary but resolute as he addressed whoever might find the recording. To those who discover this, he began, know that humanity's greatest victory was not in battle, but in restraint. We learned the hard way that power corrupts and absolute power destroys. Our hope is that future generations will build a better galaxy, one where cooperation triumphs over conquest and understanding replaces fear. The message ended abruptly, leaving the cadets speechless. For a moment, none of them spoke. The gravity of what they had uncovered settled over them like a heavy cloak. Humanity wasn't just a forgotten planet. It was a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, redemption was possible. Finally, Torque broke the silence. "We can't let this stay hidden," he said firmly. "People need to know. Not because it makes humans look good, but because it shows what's possible when we choose peace over destruction." Zix hesitated, his usual bravado faltering. But what if telling the truth puts Earth in danger? What if greedy factions come after them, demanding their secrets? Lyra hummed softly, her melody carrying a note of resolve. She placed a reassuring hand on Zix's shoulder, then pointed to the exit. Her message was clear. They needed guidance, someone wise enough to understand the stakes and brave enough to help them navigate the treacherous waters ahead. And so, as the first rays of sunlight illuminated the academy, the cadets left the archives, their minds racing with possibilities. They knew they couldn't handle this alone, but they also knew they couldn't stay silent. The truth about humanity's warband was too important to bury. It was up to them to decide how best to share it, and with whom. Little did they realize their journey was about to take an unexpected turn. Back in their dormitory, waiting for them, was a visitor they hadn't anticipated. Someone who already knew far more than they let on. When the cadets returned to their dormitory, they were met with a sight that made their hearts skip a beat. Sitting cross-legged on Zix's bunk was Admiral Vrax, the stern and imposing leader of the Galactic Academy. His towering frame filled the small room, his armored exoskeleton gleaming faintly in the dim light. Known for his unyielding discipline and sharp intellect, Admiral Vrax commanded respect from everyone at the Academy, including the trio of curious cadets now standing frozen in the doorway. "Well," Vrax said, his voice low and gravelly, "I see my instincts were correct." He gestured toward the portable drive clutched tightly in Zix's hand. "You've been digging where you shouldn't." The cadets exchanged nervous glances. How had he known? Had someone tipped him off about their late-night excursions into the restricted archives? Or worse, had he been monitoring them all along? Torque instinctively stepped forward, placing himself between the Admiral and his friends. Despite his usual gentleness, there was a protective edge to his stance now. "Sir," he began cautiously, "we didn't mean any harm. We just wanted answers." Vrax raised a clawed hand, silencing Torque mid-sentence. His piercing gaze swept over each of them, as if weighing their intentions. "Answers," he repeated slowly, his tone unreadable. "And what have you found, cadets?" For a moment, no one spoke. The weight of their discovery hung heavy in the air, mingling with the fear of consequences. Finally, Lyra stepped forward, her melodic hums filling the tense silence. She held out the drive, her translucent fingers trembling slightly. Her message was clear. They couldn't hide anymore. If Admiral Vrax already suspected something, lying would only make things worse. Zix reluctantly handed over the device, his tail flicking anxiously behind him. "We found files about Earth," he admitted, his voice steadier than he felt. "About the war ban and humanity's role in it. Sir, they weren't just bystanders. They sacrificed everything to stop the stellar cataclysm. Why wasn't this common knowledge?" Vrax studied the drive for a moment before setting it aside. To the cadet's surprise, his expression softened, not with anger, but with something akin to sadness. "Sit down," he instructed, gesturing toward the bunks. When they hesitated, he added firmly, "That's an order." Once seated, the cadets braced themselves for whatever came next. Vrax paced slowly in front of them, his claws clicking against the metal floor. "What you've uncovered isn't just history," he began. "It's a responsibility, a burden carried by very few. Humanity's decision to impose the war ban wasn't made lightly. It saved countless lives, including yours. But revealing the truth comes with risks." "Risks?" Zix blurted out, unable to contain himself. "How is keeping this a secret better than letting people know the truth? Don't they deserve to understand why Earth matters?" Vrax stopped pacing and fixed Zix with a steely glare. "Because not everyone shares your sense of morality, Cadet. There are factions in this galaxy who would exploit Earth's secrets for their own gain. Advanced technology like humanity once possessed could tip the balance of power or spark another cataclysm. Do you want that on your conscience?" The question hit hard, leaving the cadet speechless. Zix slumped back onto his bunk, his confidence wavering. Lyra hummed softly, her melody tinged with uncertainty. Even Torque, usually so steadfast, looked troubled. They had never considered the possibility that their actions might endanger the very planet they admired. Seeing their hesitation, Vrax softened his tone. "I'm not saying the truth should remain buried forever," he continued. "But timing is everything. Humanity chose to step back for a reason, to avoid becoming a target. If we reveal too much too soon, we risk undoing centuries of peace." "But ignorance isn't the answer either," Lyra chimed in, surprising everyone with her sudden boldness. Her melodic voice carried a quiet strength as she added, "People need to know that peace is possible. That sacrifice can lead to something greater. Isn't that what leadership is about, inspiring others to do better?" Vrax paused, clearly struck by her words. For a long moment, he simply stared at her, his multifaceted eyes reflecting deep thought. Then with a sigh, he nodded. "You're right," he conceded. "But inspiration without wisdom can be dangerous. Before you act, you must consider the ripple effects of your decisions. Every species in this galaxy has its own agenda, its own fears. Dropping such a revelation without preparation could ignite chaos instead of unity." Torque leaned forward, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "So what do we do, sir? Keep quiet until the time is right? And how will we know when that is?" Vrax regarded him carefully. "That's the challenge you'll face, not just as cadets, but as future leaders, knowing when to speak and when to listen. Trust me, I didn't come here to punish you. I came because I saw potential in you three. You've shown courage, curiosity, and a willingness to question the status quo. Those are qualities we need in the Galactic Defense Force." His words eased some of the tension in the room, though the cadets still felt the weight of their dilemma. "Does this mean you knew about the war ban all along?" Zix asked, his voice tinged with frustration. "Why didn't anyone tell us sooner? Why keep it hidden from cadets like us?" Vrax sighed again, his expression weary. "Because the truth isn't always easy to bear. Many of our instructors, and even some council members, believe that shielding young minds from certain realities helps preserve stability, but perhaps they underestimate the value of understanding. Ignorance may protect, but knowledge empowers. That's why I'm giving you a choice." "A choice?" Torque echoed, his antennae twitching with interest. "Yes," Vrax confirmed. "You can choose to let this matter rest for now, or you can take the first step toward change. But understand this. If you decide to pursue the truth, you'll face resistance. Not everyone will welcome your efforts, and some may try to silence you. Are you prepared for that?" The cadets exchanged glances, their resolve strengthening with each passing second. Despite the risks, they couldn't ignore what they had learned. Humanity's story was one of hope, sacrifice, and redemption, a lesson the galaxy desperately needed. Staying silent felt wrong, like turning their backs on everything they believed in. "We'll do it," Zix declared, his voice firm despite the knot of anxiety in his stomach. "Not for glory or recognition, but because it's the right thing to do." Lyra hummed in agreement, her melody carrying a sense of determination. Torque nodded solemnly, his massive frame radiating quiet strength. Together they stood united, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Vrax studied them for a moment longer, then gave a rare smile, one that hinted at pride beneath his stern exterior. "Very well," he said. "Then you'll need guidance. I won't interfere directly, but I'll provide resources and support where I can. Just remember, the path you've chosen won't be easy. Leadership demands sacrifice, just as humanity demonstrated centuries ago." With that, Admiral Vrax rose to his feet and turned to leave. As he reached the door, he paused and glanced back at the trio. "One last thing," he added. "Don't let your ideals blind you to the complexities of the galaxy. True progress requires patience, diplomacy, and compromise. Use what you've learned wisely." And with those parting words, he disappeared into the corridor, leaving the cadets alone with their thoughts. The room fell silent once more, the enormity of their decision settling over them like a heavy blanket. They had taken the first step toward uncovering humanity's truth, but the journey ahead promised to test their courage, loyalty, and resolve. As they sat together in the dim light, the cadets knew they couldn't turn back now. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them as a team. After all, they weren't just fighting for humanity, they were fighting for the future of the entire galaxy. With Admiral Vrax's cryptic advice still ringing in their ears, the cadets began to plan their next move. They knew they couldn't act recklessly. Revealing humanity's truth required careful strategy and timing. But where should they start? The galaxy was vast, filled with countless species, governments, and factions, each with its own agenda. How could they ensure their message would inspire unity rather than chaos? Zix was the first to break the silence. "We need allies," he said firmly, his tail swishing with determination. "People who understand the stakes and won't exploit the truth for personal gain." His sharp eyes scanned the room as if searching for inspiration. Someone like Admiral Vrax, but more approachable. Lyra nodded, her melodic hums conveying agreement. She gestured toward the Academy's holoscreens, which displayed live feeds of galactic news and diplomatic updates. Her point was clear. They needed to identify influential figures who valued peace over power. Leaders who had already demonstrated a commitment to cooperation might be receptive to humanity's story. Torque leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow across the floor. "But how do we reach them without drawing attention?" he asked, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "If word gets out that we're investigating Earth's secrets, it could put us and humanity in danger." The trio spent hours brainstorming ideas, weighing risks, and refining their approach. By the end of the day, they had settled on a cautious plan. They would gather intelligence on potential allies while discreetly spreading fragments of humanity's story through trusted channels. It wasn't flashy or fast, but it was safe, and it gave them time to build trust before revealing the full truth. Their first target was Ambassador Krill, a soft-spoken diplomat from a neutral planet known for mediating interstellar disputes. Krill had recently delivered a speech at the Galactic Council, advocating for disarmament and mutual understanding, a philosophy that aligned closely with humanity's ideals. If anyone could help them navigate the complexities of galactic politics, it was him. Securing a meeting with Krill proved easier than expected. Under the guise of a research project, Zix arranged an interview under the pretense of studying successful diplomatic strategies. When the day arrived, the cadets entered the ambassador's office nervously, their uniforms freshly pressed and their minds racing with questions. Krill greeted them warmly, his elongated limbs folding gracefully into a seated position. "Cadets," he said with a gentle smile, "I'm always pleased to see young minds interested in diplomacy. What brings you here today?" Zix took the lead, launching into a rehearsed explanation about their supposed study. As he spoke, Lyra subtly guided the conversation toward broader themes of sacrifice and cooperation. Her melodic hums added depth to their words, creating an atmosphere of sincerity that even Krill seemed to notice. Eventually, Torque steered the discussion toward Earth. "Ambassador," he rumbled, "what do you think of planets that choose isolation over involvement? Do you believe their decisions impact the galaxy even indirectly?" Krill tilted his head, intrigued by the question. An interesting topic, he mused. Isolation isn't inherently wrong. It can protect vulnerable civilizations. But every choice has consequences, whether intended or not. Why do you ask? The cadets exchanged glances, unsure how much to reveal. Finally, Zix decided to test the waters. Because there's a planet out there, one most people dismiss as insignificant, that made a choice centuries ago. A choice that shaped the galaxy without anyone realizing it. Krill's expression shifted. His curiosity piqued. Go on, he urged, leaning slightly forward. For the next hour, the cadets shared fragments of what they had uncovered, carefully omitting details that might expose Earth's advanced past. They framed humanity's decision as a moral lesson rather than a historical revelation, emphasizing the importance of restraint and selflessness. To their relief, Krill listened intently, his thoughtful demeanor never wavering. When they finished, the ambassador sat quietly for a moment, absorbing their words. Then, with a slow nod, he spoke. Your insights are compelling, he said carefully. While I can't confirm or deny the specifics of your claims, I appreciate the sentiment behind them. Sacrifice for the greater good is a rare and noble act indeed. Encouraged by his response, the cadets pressed further. Do you think others would listen if we shared this perspective? Zix asked hopefully. Not just leaders, but ordinary beings across the galaxy? Krill stroked his chin thoughtfully. Change rarely comes quickly, he replied. But stories have power, if told correctly. Start small, focus on building trust, and let the message grow organically. People are more likely to embrace an idea when it feels authentic rather than forced. His advice resonated deeply with the cadets. Over the following weeks, they followed Krill's guidance, sharing humanity's story in subtle ways. Through essays, presentations, and casual conversations, they highlighted the virtues of sacrifice, humility, and unity. Slowly but surely, their efforts began to gain traction. Fellow cadets started asking questions, instructors grew curious, and even some council members expressed interest in their ideas. But progress wasn't without challenges. Rumors began circulating about the cadets' unusual fascination with Earth, prompting suspicion among certain factions. One evening, as they prepared for another presentation, they received an anonymous message warning them to stop their investigations or face the consequences. We're being watched, Zix muttered grimly, his scales shimmering with unease. Whoever sent this doesn't want us digging deeper, Lyra hummed softly, her melody carrying a note of defiance. She pointed to the data crystals they had collected, then mimed, locking them away securely. Her message was clear. They needed to protect their findings while continuing their mission cautiously. Torque clicked his mandibles in agreement. We'll keep going, he said firmly. But smarter. No more late-night trips to the archives. From now on, we work openly, but strategically. Their resolve only strengthened as they faced these obstacles. Each setback reminded them of humanity's own struggles, the sacrifices made to ensure peace. Inspired by that legacy, they pushed forward, determined to honor it in their own way. Months passed, and the cadets' influence continued to spread. Their classmates began organizing discussions about the ethics of isolation versus involvement, drawing parallels to Earth's mysterious war-ban. Even outside the academy, whispers of their ideas reached distant planets, sparking debates about the nature of leadership and responsibility. Then, one fateful day, everything changed. During a routine training exercise near Earth's solar system, the cadets' starship detected an anomaly, a faint energy signature emanating from the planet itself. Curiosity overriding caution, they requested permission to investigate. To their surprise, Admiral Vrax granted it, though his tone carried a hint of warning. Be careful, he said gravely. You may find more than you bargained for. As their ship descended toward Earth's surface, the cadets felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. Below them stretched a blue-green world bathed in sunlight, its oceans shimmering like liquid sapphires. For the first time, they were seeing humanity's home, not as a distant concept, but as a living, breathing entity. Upon landing, they discovered something astonishing. Remnants of ancient human technology hidden beneath layers of earth and vegetation. Monuments to a forgotten era stood silently amidst lush forests, their designs both alien and familiar. And at the heart of it all lay a massive vault, sealed tightly against the passage of time. With trembling hands, Zix activated the vault's control panel, using knowledge gleaned from their earlier discoveries. The doors slid open with a low rumble, revealing a chamber filled with holographic records and artifacts. At the center stood a pedestal bearing a single inscription. "For those who seek peace, this is our gift. Use it wisely." The cadets stared in awe, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they had found. Humanity hadn't just sacrificed its empire, it had left behind a legacy meant to guide future generations. Tears welled up in Lyra's eyes as she hummed softly, her melody echoing off the walls. Torque placed a reverent claw on the pedestal, his antennae quivering with emotion. Even Zix, ever the skeptic, felt a lump rise in his throat. They realized, then, that their journey had only just begun. Humanity's truth wasn't just a story, it was a call to action, a reminder that true strength lies not in domination, but in the courage to choose peace. As they departed Earth's surface, their hearts heavy yet hopeful, the cadets vowed to carry its message to the stars. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together, as ambassadors of a legacy that transcended time and space. The cadets' return to the Galactic Academy marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. The discovery of humanity's hidden vault had left an indelible mark on them, transforming not just their understanding of Earth but also their vision for the galaxy. They carried back with them more than ancient artifacts and holographic records. They brought hope, inspiration, and a renewed sense of purpose. Yet they knew that sharing these treasures would require patience, wisdom, and unwavering resolve. Zix, Lyra, and Torque spent days analyzing the contents of the vault, carefully cataloging every piece of information and artifact. Among the holograms were detailed accounts of humanity's rise, fall, and ultimate redemption during the stellar cataclysm. There were blueprints of advanced technologies designed to heal rather than destroy, tools capable of reversing environmental damage, curing diseases, and fostering sustainable growth. But perhaps most striking were the personal messages left by humans who had lived through those tumultuous times. Their words spoke of regret, resilience, and an unshakable belief in the possibility of peace. "This is what we've been looking for," Zix said one evening as they pored over the data. His voice was filled with awe, his usual sarcasm replaced by genuine reverence. "Not just proof of humanity's past, but a roadmap for the future." Lyra nodded, her melodic hums resonating softly in the room. She held up a fragment of text written by a human scientist. "Progress without compassion is meaningless. Let our mistakes serve as lessons, not warnings." Her translucent skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the glow of the hollow screens around them. Torque clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "We can't keep this to ourselves," he rumbled. "But we have to be smart about it. If we release everything at once, people might misuse it, or worse, fear it." Their discussions led to a consensus. They would share humanity's legacy, gradually focusing on building trust and demonstrating its value before revealing its full scope. It wasn't enough to simply tell others about Earth's sacrifices. They needed to show how those sacrifices could inspire meaningful change across the galaxy. Their first step was to present their findings to Admiral Virax. Though he had already known parts of the story, even he seemed moved by the depth and breadth of what the cadets had uncovered. As he reviewed the data, his expression shifted from skepticism to quiet admiration. "You've done something remarkable," he admitted, his gravelly voice tinged with pride. "This isn't just history. It's a gift. Handle it wisely." With Vrax's blessing, the cadets began integrating humanity's teachings into their daily activities at the Academy. During training exercises, they emphasized teamwork and empathy, drawing parallels between their own experiences and humanity's journey toward unity. In lectures, they highlighted the importance of restraint and foresight, using real-world examples from Earth's past to illustrate their points. Slowly but surely, their classmates and even some instructors began to embrace these principles, recognizing their relevance to galactic affairs. Word of the cadets' efforts spread beyond the academy walls. News outlets picked up on their initiatives, dubbing them the Earth Advocates. Interviews and features showcased their innovative approaches to problem-solving and diplomacy, sparking interest among leaders and citizens alike. Some dismissed their ideas as naive or impractical, but many others saw potential in their message. For the first time in centuries, humanity's name became synonymous with hope instead of obscurity. Despite their growing influence, the cadets remained vigilant. They knew that not everyone welcomed their mission. Powerful factions within the Galactic Council viewed their actions with suspicion, fearing that exposing Earth's secrets could destabilize existing power structures. Anonymous threats continued to trickle in, warning the trio to abandon their crusade. One night, as they worked late in the Academy's research lab, the lights flickered ominously. A sudden alarm blared, signaling an unauthorized breach in the facility. "Stay here," Torque instructed firmly, grabbing a stun baton from a nearby rack. Zix and Lyra exchanged worried glances but obeyed, barricading themselves behind a reinforced console. Moments later, the door burst open, revealing 3 shadowy figures clad in dark cloaks. Torque confronted them head-on, his massive frame blocking their path. "Who are you?" he demanded, his mandibles snapping menacingly. The intruders hesitated, clearly unprepared for resistance. One of them stepped forward, pulling back their hood to reveal a reptilian face eerily similar to Zix's. "We're here for the vault's contents," the figure hissed. "Hand them over, and no one gets hurt." Before Torque could respond, Zix emerged from hiding, his tail lashing angrily. "You think you can scare us?" he spat, his scales glowing with defiance. "You don't understand what this means. This isn't just technology. It's a chance to make things better." A tense standoff ensued, broken only when Lyra activated the lab's emergency lockdown system. Alarms wailed louder, red lights flashing throughout the facility. The intruders, realizing they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered, retreated into the shadows, vowing to return. Though shaken, the cadets refused to let the incident deter them. If anything, it strengthened their resolve. They understood now that their mission wasn't just about preserving humanity's legacy. It was about protecting it from those who sought to exploit it. With renewed determination, they doubled down on their efforts, enlisting allies wherever they could find them. Among their staunchest supporters was Ambassador Krill, who had become a mentor of sorts to the trio. Recognizing the significance of their work, he arranged for them to address the Galactic Council directly. Standing before representatives from dozens of species, the cadets delivered a heartfelt speech that combined their discoveries with calls for collaboration and mutual respect. When humanity chose to step back, Zix declared, his voice steady and commanding, they weren't running away. They were giving us a chance to learn from their mistakes and build a brighter future together. Lyra followed with a hauntingly beautiful melody, weaving emotions into her performance that transcended language barriers. Tears welled up in the eyes of several council members as her notes echoed through the chamber, conveying both sorrow and hope. Finally, Torque concluded their presentation with a powerful statement. "True strength isn't about domination or control," he rumbled. "It's about choosing peace even when it's hard. That's the lesson humanity left for us. Will we honor it or ignore it?" The council erupted into murmurs, divided yet intrigued. While some remained skeptical, others applauded the cadets' bravery and vision. Over the following weeks, debates raged across the galaxy, fueled by the questions raised by the Earth advocates. Gradually, attitudes began to shift. More planets expressed interest in adopting Earth-inspired policies, prioritizing cooperation over conflict. Even traditionally hostile factions started exploring diplomatic solutions inspired by humanity's example. As graduation approached, the cadets reflected on how far they had come. What began as a simple curiosity about Earth's warband had evolved into a movement that touched countless lives. Each of them received assignments to different sectors of the galaxy, tasked with fostering alliances and spreading humanity's message of peace. On their final day at the Academy, they stood together beneath the stars, gazing at the distant blue-green planet orbiting a modest yellow sun. "Do you think they'd be proud of us?" Zix asked quietly, his usual bravado replaced by humility. "I think so," Torque replied, his deep voice carrying warmth. "We didn't just uncover their truth. We gave it meaning." Lyra hummed softly, her melody carrying a note of gratitude. Together, they made a silent vow to continue honoring humanity's legacy, wherever their paths might lead. And so, as they parted ways, bound by shared memories and a common goal, the cadets carried Earth's spirit with them. Humanity's quiet act of selflessness had sparked a ripple effect, shaping the destiny of countless civilizations. Through their courage, curiosity, and compassion, Zix, Lyra, and Torque proved that even in the vastness of space, the smallest acts of kindness could light the way forward.